This early morning, let us explore the first passage or first selection of the teachings of the Buddha from Jack Kornfield's Teachings of the Buddha. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi. This is the Lama you are looking for. This morning, we could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two. But first, if you love Star Wars, and you wish to meditate as profoundly as Ahsoka Tano on Lothal, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. If at any point during this morning's live stream you have a question about meditation or philosophy or even chanting, there is no need to be shy. Simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Whoops, it looks like I've made a boo-boo. Let me fix that real quick. Please bear with me. Let's see. There we go. So this first selection from this first reading from the Jack Kornfield's The Teachings of the Buddha comes from Thomas Byram's translation of the Dhammapada. It's been adapted by yours truly. Wakefulness is the way to life, the fool sleeps as if he were already dead. But the master is awake and he lives forever. Judging from the overall context of the Dhammapada, this passage, this line right here is hyperbolic. It is figurative. He watches, he is clear how happy he is, for he sees that wakefulness is life. So in other words, when we look at the writings of the philosopher Lao Tzu, there are two distinct modes of living, yang and yin. We can go through life concentrating, or go through life being, we can go through life being rigid or being flexible, being fearful or fearful or loving, controlling or laid back. We can be elitist or egalitarian. We could be competitive or cooperative. We can be cruel or we can be kind. It's that second list of attributes that the Buddha is referring to by wakefulness. Let's take it to let's take this from another perspective. When our perceptual acuity falls under the thrall of concentration, it is very tunnel visioned. It is very compressing. It breeds fear and aggression. When, however, our perception is vulnerable, passive, visceral, and random, we experience greater potential for freedom and peace and wisdom. Let's continue. How happy he is following the path of the awakened. With great enthusiasm he meditates, savoring freedom and happiness. So, through no fault of our own, in our culture and most cultures around the world, people have confused concentration with meditation. I've known people who practice concentration. They did not experience freedom and happiness. They experienced compression and crankiness, which is the opposite. So this is referring to the type of mindfulness and meditation that I described a few moments ago as being, as during the in-breath being vulnerable, passive, visceral, and random, and during the exhalation being physically relaxing and mentally releasing, as is inferred by the Buddha's 7 enlightenment factors. Before we answer a question from social media, I'd like to take a minute for housekeeping. I live stream 4 meditation classes a day, health permitting. I do so without any ads. With your assistance, this channel could help to support the next generation of nuns, monks, yogis, lamas, and even brick and mortar meditation centers. Each replete with a resident teacher and their apprentice. If this speaks to you, if this sounds like a good idea, you are welcome to help out even for as little as the cost of 1 cup of coffee a month. Simply use your smartphone's camera to capture this QR code, or merely click one of the donation links in the description area below the video. Okay, now let's take a gander at the question from Reddit. Oh, pardon me. So, let's see here how we're going to do this. Okay. Jonah Scholp, I apologize if I've just murdered her name, asked, when your very nature has become ease and restfulness, is there no such thing as stress in you? Is this true for you? In your experience, is it true what Sadhguru is saying here? That you can transform yourself to a place where you are at ease all the time with no stress. And my answer to this is going to be very controversial. I mean no one any disrespect. But this is a exceedingly important question which must be addressed. Not everybody is 100% correct all the time. Most people, when they're incorrect, it's accidental. It's an error. And an error is not a lie. A lie is not being incorrect. An error is a deliberate attempt to deceive. Now, I do not know this person who's known as Sadhguru. I've watched some of his videos. I don't know. I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt. But, so I must tell you, not all people are good-hearted. Some people are cult leaders, some people are salesmen, some people try to exploit others. And one of the ways they sometimes do that is by creating unrealistic expectations. When a charismatic teacher creates unrealistic expectations in their students, and their students attend their classes and do their homework and don't get those results, a portion will think, well, the teacher's horrible, I'll find a better one. And they'll prance off to find another teacher, which is great. Others will persist and say, well, I'm not getting the results I was told of. I must be doing something wrong. I'll have to try harder. I will have to buy more of his books. I will have to buy admission to more of his teachings Maybe if I just spend enough and try harder, I'll receive the results he explained to me. So that is very dark, but it's not unusual. Even in the West, many salesmen will perform a very, very deceptive and manipulative action they sometimes call providing value. Well, they'll say, I'm an expert in thus and such field, and you can get results by implementing this easy 9-point plan. And they make it just as ungainly and just as vague as to so frustrate a portion of the enthusiastic people they're interfacing with as to prompt them, the people they're interfacing with, to pay the fee to receive the complete program. So there's an act of deception and coercion. The deception is, here's a plan you can follow. The coercion is, the plan is ungainly and it's too vague. They don't get the results they wanted, and in their frustration, they become like Fry in Futurama. Shut up and take my money. I've had this done to me numerous times, both in the business arena and in the quasi-spiritual arena. It's no fun. Now, some people give wildly unrealistic expectations to their students, not because they're malicious, just because they are lazy-minded. I once read a book about a specific spiritual technique, and then the final paragraph of the book, after making all these promises, the author says, now personally, I have not mastered this technique and have not received these promised attributes. Perhaps you will. And I was really spoiled by the Tibetan tradition, because in the Tibetan tradition, the idea is you do not teach something after you learn it. You teach it after you have mastered it, which some people say takes 10,000 hours, if you're lucky. So some people are malicious. Some people are just lazy-minded. But consider, if you will. Now that we've discussed vagaries, let's move closer towards specifics. The teacher promised that you can get to a place where your very nature has become ease and restfulness. That is a delightfully vague thing. Its imprecision lends itself to manipulation. I knew of another teacher who used to say, if you're a pure Dharma practitioner, you will receive these blessings. But he never specifically defined what a pure Dharma practitioner was. Therefore, when people failed to receive those good things, they would conclude falsely that they were therefore not pure Dharma practitioners. And in their heightened state of anxiety, they were more easy to manipulate. So this is not new. There's always people who deal in vagaries with a coercive agenda. If you can ask that, when you turn to the Buddha's Four Noble Truths, the first one speaks of suffering. You can speak to a scientist, you can speak to a biologist, and they'll say, yes, we are subject to stressors. Stressors is one of the engines that drives evolution. There are circumstantial stressors. There are physical stressors. There are interpersonal stressors. There are mental stressors. None of these are trivial. They've influenced the evolution of every aspect of the human body, the human brain, and consequently the human mind. If someone tells you that if you're just spiritual enough, you're incapable of experiencing stressors, then either they're saying you will no longer be subject to external stressors, such as those that are circumstantial or physical or social, or that you will no longer perceive those stressors. Well, the first option smacks of some sort of magic, which is great for D&D. Which is marvelous for novels or movies. Yes, have fun, knock yourself out. But if you sincerely tell someone that they will no longer be subjected to the weather, they will no longer be subjected to the climate, they will no longer be subjected to earthquakes, they'll no longer be subject to plagues or famines, I'm going to have to see some evidence for that. And it's going to have to be peer-reviewed. I'm sorry. The Buddha never promised such things. Let's continue. If someone promises that you will no longer experience or perceive those things, then I must remind that person that the Buddha taught of 7 enlightenment factors. What is the first enlightenment factor? Mindfulness. Mindfulness is not concentration. It is perception, vulnerable, passive, visceral, and random. Whenever we say, I will no longer perceive something, we have left the freedom of mindfulness. And instead have chosen the restrictive perceptual experience, the tunnel vision of concentration. The Buddha taught that without mindfulness, there can be no enlightenment. Now, this person, Jonah, may have misunderstood the teachings, or someone might have mistranslated the teachings. The person giving the teachings, known as Sadhguru, may be speaking hyperbolically. Now, I've had a very good communications teacher many years ago who said there's no such thing as misunderstanding. There's only miscommunicating. He went on to explain, much to my great discomfort, that the burden of comprehension was not on the listener, but on the communicator, the speaker, the writer, the author. And although figures of speech are wonderfully have the potential to be very profound means of communication, they also hold a tremendous potentiality for confusion. And therefore it is incumbent upon a good communicator to let people know when they are speaking figuratively, and then to let people know when they are speaking literally, assuming that person is both wise and loving, and they really care about the comprehension and the well-being of those receiving their message. So it is conceivable that the idea is that metaphorically, once you are so good at noticing stress in your life and dealing with stress in your life, that it becomes an effortless process. In fact, it has been said that enlightenment is simply the mastery of the Eightfold Path. Mastery being the ability to practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. So that is a literal exploration of what mastery of the Eightfold Path is. Now, hyperbolically, figuratively, it could be described as that you're so good at noticing and dealing with stress that it's no longer an issue for you. However, it becomes very clear from the verbiage of this question that this individual, this good-hearted individual, has perceived this literally. If that was the intention of the teacher, then it's my experience. In my experience, that teaching is inaccurate and can do great harm. One of the teachings of the Buddha is that Let's go back. One of the teachings of I think the third Zen patriarch of China is that preferences, basically his first line of his great Shastra, and I'm going to paraphrase in a very sloppy manner. Enlightenment is easy for those with no preferences. And once again, this is very hyperbolic. But what he's saying is, if we are a slave to our preferences, to our dread of that and our desire of this, to our shoving and our reaching, if we are a slave to those impulses, if they control us, we will not master the path of peace. So if we say, I hate stress and I love bliss, which we already are wired to do, but if we are so controlled by those impulses that we refuse to even perceive the experience of stress, it seems very much that we have lost the path. On the path, we're to be vulnerable to the present moment. I'm experiencing this and such right now. I'm feeling these impulses right now. That's great. It's a great place to start. You're feeling something as you breathe in, and if you've conditioned yourself appropriately, as you breathe out, you're able to release that experience, whether it is pleasurable or painful or interesting or boring or glorious or grotesque. So now that I've blathered on, let's tie this up with a nice red bow. The Buddha never promised us freedom from stress. He promised us freedom from the tyranny of stress, where we are able to perceive stress, where we're able to work through it in an efficient and beneficial manner. Once again, if you have just joined us this morning, if at any time during the live stream you have a question about meditation or philosophy or chanting, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Let us play with the latest iteration of our practice text, Diamond Mind's Easy Tantra. We begin with the preliminary practices, which are known by many names, such as Ngondra. Let us train the neural pathways responsible for empathy and enthusiasm by simply chanting the recitations of bodhicitta and refuge. So the first couplet we train with enthusiasm. We train our empathy. With the second couplet, we train in enthusiasm. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. We turn our attention now to mantra meditation, beginning by reviewing the meaning of the mantra. So together let us chant. Om, I invoke the benzodiazepine-like strength of our subtle mind, well trained in love and letting go, supplicating with whom may love and letting go be mastered by all. Let us consider for a moment this statue depicting two Buddhas sitting or sporting in tantric union. This could be described in Sanskrit as Vajrasattva Karma Mudra, or in Tibetan as Dorje Sempa Yabhyam, or in English as Diamond Mind mother and father. The iconography of this yidam, or archetype of enlightenment, functions merely to organize the 8 figures of speech or similes necessary for deeply transformative mantra contemplation. A regressive view of the Tantra would say these are literal entities which you must supplicate. A progressive view would say no, these are allegorical, and we use them because vertebrate life forms on this planet have evolved to think symbolically. We're going to begin with love and letting go, which is known by many names, including generation stage tantra or creation stage tantra, depending upon the whim of the translator. We start with love, which helps us to leapfrog over our competitive tendencies. Please chant with me. And basically we're going to be chanting a loving wish for others that is using figures of speech, actually two. May all minds of all beings now be as peaceful and wise as our Buddha's mind, symbolized by a one-syllable mantra known as a Zero Bija mantra. And we compress those 4 lines into the single line, wisdom, peace for all minds. So you see, my friends, the trick to converting mere mantra recitation into mantra contemplation is twofold. During our inhalation, we can silently and mentally play with either a wisdom-oriented rhetorical question or as a loving intention, as we are right here. The second trick is that during the exhalation, while we are chanting the mantra, to physically relax as best you can. Now, here's a quick pro tip. It's not our job to visualize. It's not our job to emote, despite the ravings of the regressive folks. If all we do is silently and mentally recite these words in harmony with our inhalations and our exhalations and our relaxations, we will make progress upon the path of love, the second fold of the Buddha's 8-fold path. Let's dig in right now. Together. May all relationships of all beings now be as joyful and loving as a Buddha's communication symbolized by the 6-syllable mantra. Om Benza Sato Hung, Om Benza Sato Hung, Om Benza Sato Hung, Om Benza Sato Hung. Om Benza Sato Hung, Om Benza Sato Hung, Om Benza Sato Hung, Om Benza Sato Hung. Om Benza Sato Hung, Om Benza Sato Hung, Om Benza Sato Hung, Om Benza Sato Hung. Om Benza Sato Hung, Om Benza Sato Hung, Om Benza Sato Hung, Om Benza Sato Hung. May all bodies of all beings now enjoy the beautiful, healthy, depicted in Buddhist thought of the blissful body of a yidam of lore and archetype of enlightenment. Omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung. Omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung. Omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung. Omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung. May all circumstances of all beings be as safe and fortunate as a Buddha's paradise without all party of Lord. Omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung. Omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung. Omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung. Omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung. We now switch gears from love to letting go. Training in this first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path helps us to leapfrog over our clinging tendencies. Now we switch. Well, I'll get there in a minute. How is it that as we inhale, our circumstances could appear quite vivid? Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as non-graspable as a cloudless sky or a body of light. And now we switch from loving intention to rhetorical question. Omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung. Now, of course, this is a rhetorical question, so we do not strive to answer it actively. In fact, we answer it viscerally by our very act of physically relaxing as we recite or chant the six-syllable mantra during our exhalation. Omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung. Omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung. Omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung. How is it that as we inhale, our bodies could feel quite sensual? Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void or a dome of light. So here's a quick trip. We talked about something being as non-graspable as a vast empty void. What's that? Well, an example of a non-graspable vast empty void would be a cloudless sky, which, though tantalizing to the eye, is intangible to the hand. You can lie on a blanket on a cloudless morn. You can lie on a blanket on the lawn during a cloudless morn, gaze up into the blue sky, reach, and yet never pull back. Blue. Omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung, omenza sato hung. Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung. Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung. Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung. How is it that as we inhale, the interpersonal experience of communication could be quite resounding? Yet as we relax into our exhalation, it could feel as non-graspable as a cloudless sky or a mantra of light. Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung. Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung. Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung. Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung. How is it that as we inhale, we could perceive our mind's functions quite clearly? So what are the functions of mind that we could perceive clearly? Well, we could perceive sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We could also perceive emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. Don't let someone tell you to ignore these things. Remember, the first enlightenment factor is mindfulness. If this sensory information is pouring through your mind like a river, let it. Let's continue. Yet as we chant it, take two. Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void or a bija of light. Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung. Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung. Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung. Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung, Omen Zazato Hung. Having completed 128 repetitions of this six-syllable mantra, we switch gears from verbal contemplations to silent contemplations as well as meditations. What's the difference, you might ask, between a contemplation and a meditation? Well, simply put, a contemplation is very active. Meditation is very passive. We will explore that in greater detail in several minutes. So let us silently contemplate love. During our in-breath, we can silently and mentally recite wisdom, peace. During our exhalation, we can silently and mentally recite for all minds. Once again, it is not our job to visualize or emote. It's simply our job to silently and mentally recite these words in coordination with our inhalation and our exhalation and our relaxation. Do that simple thing and you will make progress on the path. We now switch gears from contemplating love to contemplating letting go. Let us bring the four bases of mindfulness into the dance of impermanence and interdependence, beginning with circumstance. Let us use the verb melt as a metaphor of impermanence, the contemplation of which could help us to leapfrog over our clinging tendencies. Similarly, we can use this inference of absorption as a metaphor of interdependence, one thing affecting another, the contemplation of which could help us to leapfrog over our competitive tendencies. So basically, we're playing, we don't have, once again, it's not our job to actively visualize. We're simply playing with words in coordination with inhalation, exhalation, and relaxation. But the basic idea is that all places everywhere blissfully melt into rainbow light that now absorbs into our body right now, right here, of flesh, blood, and bone. And now we play with the idea of all bodies, of all beings, real or imagined, blissfully melting into rainbow light that now absorb into, including our own body, that now absorb into our own faculty of speech. Now we play with the idea of all communication everywhere, real or imagined, blissfully melting into rainbow light that now absorbs into our mind, symbolized by the syllable ah. We now play with the idea of all minds everywhere, including our own, blissfully melting into rainbow lights that now absorb into vast, open space, which serves as a metaphor of non-graspability. Our next meditation can feel an awful lot like the overlapping Venn diagram between contemplation and meditation. It can be described as bliss and letting go, or if you prefer English, completion stage. What we'll be doing is, during our inhalation, noticing our sensations, and during whatever they are, pleasurable or unpleasurable, pleasurable or painful, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque. And during our exhalation, we shall relax into their non-graspable nature. Lofty words, how do we apply them? Simple. During our inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, notice bliss. During our exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, relaxing. Welcome to this morning's live stream. When you have a question about meditation or philosophy, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. During the in-breath, we are mentally reciting seed bliss, seed of bliss. And during the exhalation, we are silently and mentally reciting relaxing. It's not our job to visualize or to make ourselves feel something. If all we do is silently and mentally play with these words, in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation and our relaxation, we will make progress on the path. Let's now switch gears from this hybrid of meditation and contemplation, to straight contemplation, returning to our contemplations of love. For our next four silent contemplations, let us explore the union of awareness and acquiescence. The union of, so for instance, when we consider our circumstances, we can explore how they can be perceived, and yet as we relax into our exhalation, these exact same circumstances could also feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. They can feel as non-graspable as the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn. We come now to awareness and letting go, which is known by many names, including great completion stage. Now, this is true meditation, wherein as we breathe in, we will notice mind and all its antics, and as we breathe out, we shall relax into mind's non-graspable nature. We shall accomplish this rather easily. During our in-breath, we will silently and mentally recite, notice this. And during our out-breath, we could silently and mentally recite, relaxing. Now let us contemplate, let us view the four thoughts that turn the mind to the teachings through a more progressive lens. Let us seal our practice with 5 chants of universal love, beginning with that of liberation. May I, like Diamond Mind, master the Eightfold Path as well as liberate others. And now the ethics of kindness. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and commerce flow spontaneous and uncontrived. Let us train in impermanence, zeal, and love. May each being take auspicious rebirth, master the Buddha's path, and then help all others do likewise. Let us recite Dujum Jigdral Rinpoche's wish of love for the world. Throughout these lands and everywhere upon the earth in general, may the sufferings of disease, famine, and warfare be entirely unknown, so that not even their names occur. May the practice of the Dharma merit and prosperity increase, and may there always be good fortune and well-being in abundance. And let's conclude with the 4 immeasurables. May everyone be free from stress, may everyone be happy, may no one be separated from the happiness, may everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. If you feel I have earned it, type something in the chat window, give this live stream a thumbs up, and share it on social media. In approximately 2.5 hours, I would love to return to lead Thursday's mid-morning meditation. Until we meet again, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.